Stunning news for the Chicago Bears as center Drew Dalman reportedly is retiring. I don't know that anybody was ready for this, and there is a lot to discuss with the fallout. Adam Schefter reporting Drew Dalman is retiring. We are here to break it down on an emergency podcast of CHGO Bears. This emergency podcast is presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. Your team's starting lineup may change. Yes, that is fitting, but the price of your internet will not. Check out the 5-year price guarantee from Xfinity. Like Xfinity is just trolling us right now with that. But we are proudly sponsored by Xfinity because the Bears starting lineup did change. And center Drew Dalman, according to Adam Schefter, big enough news that we've brought Braggs back from a 2-day vacation. Hello, Greg. I'm sure you're not happy about this.
No, it's awful, right? Excuse me. I mean, wasn't expecting to talk about this. I mean, Bears fans have been waiting on the waiver wire all day to hear the news that Max Crosby is getting traded to the Bears, and whether you want that move to happen or not, the range of emotion from thinking about a trade like that to Drew Dalman retiring, it's a massive blow for the Chicago Bears. It really cannot be understated. The Pro Bowl center last year, you already had to figure out how you're going to address left tackle with Ozzie Trapillo's injury. You have so many holes on the defensive side of the ball that need to be filled, and they can check a lot of those boxes over the next 2 months. But there's a lot of work to be done, and now you add losing your center, who was so vital to the turnaround for this offense, so vital to the emergence of Caleb Williams becoming a superstar in so many ways, and taking the sack count down from 68 to, what was it, 20? These guys did a fantastic job on the offensive line. It started with that interior. Now you don't have Drew Dalman. It's a devastating blow here today.
So I'm going to give you 2 pieces of silver lining, okay? And then I'm going to cry for the rest of the podcast because we know how much I've been talking about centers for the last decade. All right, so I saw the question, what does this do for cap space? My understanding is it frees up $10 million of cap space because the guarantees that were on his contract get voided. And he was due, his cap hit was going to be $14 million this upcoming season. The Bears will only be on the hook for the $4 million that was left on the signing bonus that was originally out there. So instead of $14 million, it's a $4 million cap hit. A lot of talk about cap space for the Bears. And if there is a silver lining, this does free up some space to do some things, although they're probably going to have to go out and sign another center. So maybe that just gets allocated to that. Second, the timing of this at least is better, knowing this before the start of the new league year, which starts next Wednesday. Free agency starts Monday. We could have some trades this week. Then when Frank Ragnow stunned the Lions last summer, retiring after they were well on their way towards thinking they had their offensive line plan in place for 2026. So there's at least that. However, I mean, this is a blow, man. I'm trying to think. There's been bad stories that have happened in the time I've covered this team, but I don't know. There's been a more stunning one. Maybe trading for Khalil Mack, but even at least that was talked about for a while as a possibility leading up to it. I mean, I didn't hear a single whisper about Drew Dalman retiring or this even be on the table. He is still young. He just got this big contract with the Bears, #1 center on the free agent market a year ago, has a great season in a great situation on a winning team, gets paid, goes to the Pro Bowl. all of these things. It's just stunning. And it's the Bears just went like, I don't know, what was it? 14 years trying to find their next center after Olin Kreutz. And it's they seemingly finally had that guy, and now they just don't. Caleb on Twitter just tweeting Hulk with a tear emoji because he just lost one of his Avengers.
Yeah.
Drew Dalman was a huge part of this offensive line, and look, there's some options out there, but this is a big blow, Braggs.
It absolutely is, and it's you just try to think about. I guess you need to kind of rewind here a little bit. He's 27, right? And without over speculation, you just hope that it's not something serious, right? With his personally or family or otherwise. I mean, maybe he's just making the decision to walk away at an early age. But we're
seeing this more and more, especially with offensive linemen.
Yeah, I mean, but he did just sign this 3-year deal last year. So, I guess what else are you going to do last year when you're making that decision? But so it's just unexpected, and you hope that it's nothing serious for him personally. And then beyond that, it's the Bears now trying to, put this together. They have so many decisions they have to make. And then the other trickle down effect, of knee-jerk reaction as soon as it happened. The first thing that crossed my mind after spending 12 hours refreshing Twitter thinking that something was imminent with some sort of Max Crosby news, the way some of these insiders around the league have certainly been putting stuff out there, was, well, I don't know if they can trade for Max Crosby now. If there was draft equity attached to that, and so there's just a trickle down effect to this that's going to take place. And this is what I was talking about with Ozzie Trapillo. This could not be a more worse. I hate sounding the alarm because I trust this front office and this coaching staff to figure it out. They figured it out last year with the same amount of holes. And now you have an identity. You know what you want to be as a team. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's just at this point right now in the offseason, having not answered any questions of how they're going to fill safety, how they're going to figure out their linebacking position, how they're going to figure out their defensive line. What are they going to do at left tackle while they figure out what's going to happen with Ozzie Trapillo? Now you add this to your list. There's just so many things this team has to figure out over the next 2 months. And, to go from that, from a month ago when this team was on the doorstep of an NFC championship game, it's like, damn, and as Ben Johnson said, here's the reset. This does not roll over, and I think this move kind of embodies that thought.
The one thing I will say here is, Drew Dalman is, everybody's around him says he's incredibly sharp, incredibly smart. He went to Stanford. His dad played in the NFL, right? He grew up with a dad who played in the league. If there's anyone that's probably thought this out and put out all the puzzle pieces together to make such a huge decision in his life, especially after getting the contract and the success from last season, I think it's Drew Dalman. So, obviously I think we all wish him the best. I love talking to him this season. I loved how he played. I loved what he meant to the offense and Caleb Williams. And moving forward, look, follow the breadcrumbs here. Ben Johnson came in and they immediately went out and they signed the best center that was available. I'm going to go ahead and say they're not going to screw around. They're going to do something similar. Yeah. Right? They know what's on the line here with Caleb Williams. They know how much his development matters. And we know how much the offensive line and specifically in the run game matters to Ben Johnson. So there was already a report out there that they're going to host Tyler Biadasz, who's been good in this league for a long time.
Yeah, I've got that here, Steven. I threw them both in the hopper with Tyler Biadasz. I don't know if you have any, but here's Ian Rappaport reporting the Bears are hosting free agent center Tyler Biadasz. Thank you for the pronunciation on that, Hoge. On a visit, the former Commander starter was recently released and is now available before the frenzy begins. And then the other one that I thought was really interesting here was Albert Breer quote tweeting Adam Schefter's report that really just dropped a bomb here on Bears fans. But Albert Breer quote tweeted it and said the Bears have sniffed around Tyler Linderbaum, and now that makes sense.
Yes, which was what I was about to say. Biadasz went to Wisconsin, so if I didn't know Biadasz's name, then you should yell at me. You should probably know Biadasz's name as well. The guy's been pretty good in the league for a while. Tyler Linderbaum. Sorry,
I personally like Biadasz a lot. He calls his own protections. I think that's something that's really important right now. You know, Drew Dalman was doing a lot of that for Caleb this year, and having someone that could take that off his plate is really going to help in his development. So Biadasz could be a really good fit for the Bears if they could manage to get him.
Yeah, 28 years old, played for the Cowboys before going to the Commanders, just recently released. I like Linderbaum a lot. He was number 3 on. Linderbaum's probably gonna be more expensive, but he's number 3 on Matt Bowen's top 50 free agents. And there was thought that maybe he could follow John Harbaugh to New York, which would make a lot of sense. So there's options. But you had the guy seemingly already on your roster on a pretty affordable contract with 2 years remaining. And it's a blow. So we'll see what the Bears do. You add this to definitely their list of needs that they have here. And I agree with Charles there, as I made earlier. But Dalman did the Bears a solid by announcing his retirement before free agency. Right. Because like the guys we're talking about right now are going to be gone in a week. Tyler Biadasz and Linderbaum are going to be gone. So at least they're available now when Dalman decides to make this move.
Do the Bears need to make other moves right now to make way for signing a center before free agency?
For what reason?
Just cap space or whatever they're trying to do.
This frees up $10 million.
Right.
So I don't now in the long grand scheme of the puzzle piece, depending, like a lot of talk about Max Crosby, right? I'm not saying that this doesn't impact that, because depending on who they want to go get, that's going to take some of the cap space that just got freed up by this move. And there's a world in which it could even potentially cost you more. But you are signing a new contract, so you can finagle that contract so it really doesn't hurt you in the near, for this year, and put a lot of it in the signing bonus. That could help you. I don't think I've seen a lot of comments about how this impacts Max Crosby. This doesn't change what I've said all along with Max Crosby. If the Bears really, really want Max Crosby, they can still go make that work. This doesn't cancel out Max Crosby. That doesn't make any sense. Let's bring in Adam Jahns, who's now joining us here on this emergency edition of the CHGO Bears Podcast. Johnsy, I'll tee this up for you, because I was just saying this, like, on the list of stunning news stories that I've covered since covering the Bears, I think the only other thing I don't really remember one that's this stunning other than like when the Bears traded for Khalil Mack. But at that point, we had talked about that story all summer as a possibility. We were just stunned that it actually happened. In this case, like, of all the possible things this offseason, Drew Dalman retiring like never crossed my mind.
Yeah, not on our radar whatsoever. I think it's you have to define what stunning means. Like Aaron Kromer becoming the source behind Ian Rappaport. Like that was a stunning story, and just how it all came to fruition, especially publicly. The Khalil Mack trade, obviously stunning because of the acquisition of a marquee player. In this, because for once, since I've covered the Chicago Bears, I entered an offseason feeling great about the Bears' offensive line. Absolutely positive. They had every piece but one figured out, and you still saw some potential to add a left tackle at some point. Like, they had answers up front. This is one of the best offensive lines in football. That's how it was being discussed. And now you're losing your centerpiece. If Drew Dalman wants to retire in his own terms, I fully and 100% respect that. I like when a player, I think it's actually very cool when a player goes out on his own terms. But from the Bears' perspective, this leaves a gaping hole in the middle of an offensive line that was considered one of the best this offseason.
Yeah, it's annoying, right? I mean, look at the years that we went through this. All due respect to, I try to be delicate about how I say that because it's just from a Bear. Like, if there's something serious going on with Drew Dalman, outside of just wanting to retire early, which I respect his decision on that, just from a Bears perspective, it is annoying because we look at what we've gone through here in Chicago trying to figure out the center position. Sam Mustipher and Coleman Shelton, among others, and so many failed centers here over even the immediate last 5 years. They just have not been able to get that position figured out. You bring this guy in, he gets you to a Pro Bowl. You could have foreseen him getting even a second contract here in Chicago. And now 1 year, it's just, it's annoying.
To your point about, like, you hope things are okay with Drew Dalman. You hope things are good at home. You hope things. I think one thing we all forget is that we're all people in this. Like, athletes are people. So I think more context and more reporting is probably needed. I'm not sure if we'll ever get the full story from until Dalman speaks, but you have to respect this decision. And if I actually respect that he informed the Bears now, as opposed to dragging this out, especially if you're looking at this specifically from a roster construction standpoint. Now the Bears know they need a center before free agency, a week before free agency. That, to me, is something you should thank Drew Dalman for if he's been considering this for some time, and I would speculate that he has. But I want to give this story some room to breathe. Maybe there's more to Drew Dalman's side that needs to be reported or discussed later on, but from a roster construction standpoint, at least the Bears have some clarity a week ahead of free agency now that they need a center.
Jahns, am I correct to say that you had quite a few conversations, with Drew Dalman throughout the season? I can remember you writing an article on him, so I guess in that regard, what did you learn from him, not just as the type of player, but just the type of person he is?
That Caleb Williams probably relied on him more than meets the eye. I think Caleb has said it a couple times, especially at the end of the season, where he wanted to take some of the load off Drew himself, because Drew at the line of scrimmage handled so much for Caleb in his second season. Now, as time went on, some of those responsibilities shifted from center back to quarterback, as they should be, but that is an important pairing. Like, that tandem has to put in a lot of work, not only on game days, but it's the preparation. And they had a relationship that was forming. Drew Dalman believed in Caleb Williams. He enjoyed playing for Caleb Williams. He enjoyed protecting Caleb Williams. So his loss will be felt. Like Caleb Williams described it as just being, like Joe Thuney himself described it, Drew Dalman as just someone who took such a load off the offensive line, someone he could trust to get everybody in the right place, to have the right Mike linebacker identified, to have the protection set up. They counted on Drew Dalman in so many different ways, up front, on and off the field. So this will be felt at various levels, especially in the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, we actually have that clip. You had a chance to talk to Joe Thuney at the Pro Bowl. This was in San Francisco just a few weeks ago. Joe Thuney on Drew Dalman. This is what he said.
For sure, yeah, he's such a tough, smart, really good football player, and he knows the offense inside and out, and great resource to have. Just talking about the game, and always communicating. Me and him, for everything, and so he made my life a lot easier on a lot of things. So really appreciative playing next to him.
Now you got to replace that. Again, there's some good options out there. Tyler Biadasz and Tyler Linderbaum have played a lot of football, and they know this league. I think that they can come in and with Dan Rochar and with this coaching staff and Ben Johnson, but to me, it's like it's got to be that. It's got to be somebody like that. I don't, there's just not. We talked earlier on Hoge and Jahns today about the idea of drafting a center late, but that's like to replace Ryan Bates. That's not to plug a guy in there as the starter.
So I shouldn't drop my Evan Bernstein conversation that I had at the podium at the combine from Northwestern. 24-year-old, definitely, somebody I think was
I'm
on
gonna
the
interrupt.
Bears.
No,
right?
you should not drop that conversation.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm just saying. No, I shouldn't.
No, we don't need
but
to
I'm
know anything
saying-
more about him.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, but we've been talking about this as an underrated need for the Bears
Yeah.
before Drew Dalman, the Pro Bowler, retired. So now it's like,
Well, let me ask
they're
you.
gonna have.
Let me ask you this, Hoge. If you had to rank now the priority needs for the Bears, where does this fall? I mean, you can make an argument it is their number one priority
Yeah.
when you consider what they have to do on offense.
I want to interject. Yes, 100%.
It is.
Absolutely. Ben Johnson's offense requires a cerebral center, like someone who is smart, someone who puts in a ton of effort behind the scenes to learn the nuances of this offense. And Drew Dalman was that player for the Chicago Bears. He was praised for not only his physical gifts, but his smarts, his brilliance. Ben Johnson requires a very smart center in the middle of his offense.
I'm just like the comments, and I'm with you guys. Are just stunning. I thought it was a fake Adam Schefter account when it first popped up on my phone. Like I had to double check it like 3 times. I think there's people at House that are stunned right now too. I don't know when exactly the Bears were informed, but yeah, I think it is number one. I think it is number one on like when you think about the impact on what this offensive line had in 2025, the impact it had on Caleb Williams to remove the piece in the middle. I mean, my brain's almost going to like, is this hard? I don't know if it's harder. Losing Joe Thuney would have been huge too, but like this is almost worse because it's the center.
Well, nothing ruins a game plan, I should say, faster than interior pressure. And if you're wrong in the middle, then you're going to be wrong after that. It all starts up front. It had all started all up front with Drew Dalman communicating with Caleb Williams. They worked as a tandem up front. And now that relationship starts anew with another center.
Sorry, Greg.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, and I said this a little bit ago, the nice thing is the silver linings are you have your head coach, you have your quarterback, but more importantly, in a situation like this, I believe you have a front office and coaching staff that understands the problems and knows how to address them. If you watch how they put together their offseason last year and even some of the moves they made in a pinch during the season to help them get over the playoff hump, I trust this team and this organization to figure this out. That being said, they got a lot to figure out, and that's frustrating coming off of the year that we had to finish and being on the doorsteps of an NFC championship.
Yep, 100%. All right, well, we will. I think that's all there is to say about this now. We will continue to follow the Bears' developments. They seem to be interested in both Biadasz and Linderbaum, and this will be something you need to address pretty quickly. So as news breaks, we will continue to look at it. Joseph Giovanni, San Giovanni with 10 Swiss francs, wishing Drew the best. I have faith in the Bears to get a replacement. Bummer we have to do it, but could see an early draft pick at the spot and left tackle taken care of in free agency. I think that's it there. And $2 from Hawkeye, Logan Jones, or my boy Linderbaum. Go Hawks. It's the only time you'll ever hear me say go Hawks, unless it's go Blackhawks. But I don't like
let's go Hawks.
Fine, but I just don't like how that's like go Hawks with that stupid logo up there. Speaking of, I can't read that fast, but all right, I'm going to wrap up because I got to go. Emergency Pod presented by Xfinity. That's what this was. Imagine that. Thank you for being here. Hit the like button. Subscribe on the way out. Bunch of people watching. We do Bear shows every single day of the week. In fact, we were doing one when this news broke, and then we had to end that show and do this emergency pod. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, CHGO. You have all of our Bears coverage. We're back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Live is the 4th birthday of CHGO tomorrow as well. So got that to look forward to. We will continue to cover this as well as anything else if it happens. We'll break in with an emergency podcast here on CHGO. Talk to you later.
We all silly like the mayor.